In this video, you will see the solution to the practice exercise Link Models. This exercise asks you to open an existing project and link in a structural Revit model and a 2D site DWG plan. We then need to align the linked files to the correct location and set up shared coordinates between the three files using the DWG as the base for those coordinates. Finally, we need to create a structural view of the model and control the display of both the DWG and the linked Revit model within this view. Let's begin by opening the file Residence block. We're currently looking at the first floor plan view, and we can see the grid lines within our model here. So we'll first link in the structural model. So from the Insert Ribbon tab, on the Link panel, we'll choose Link Revit, and we'll choose the Residence Structure Revit model to link in. Looking at the positioning, this is currently auto internal origin to internal origin, so we'll set this auto center to center, and then choose Open to bring this file in. Now we can see it's been positioned within our model. Zooming in, we can see the structure on the grid lines here, and if I just swap to the 3D view, we can see we have our Revit model with its structure and foundations that we need to align to the correct location within this project. So going back to the first floor view, first we'll rotate it through 90 degrees. So selecting the linked model, we'll choose Rotate, and then we'll choose to rotate it through 90 degrees clockwise. And now I'll use the Align tool to align the grid lines. So from the Modify Ribbon tab, we choose the Align tool. I'll select grid line 1 in our live project and grid line 1 in the linked model, and then grid line A in my live project and grid line B in the linked model. And that will get that into the correct location. And we can see all the grid lines are lined up, and we've got the columns in the correct location within the project. So now that's in the correct place, I'll reselect the model, and from the Modify Ribbon tab on the Modify panel, I'll choose the Pin tool to pin this in place so we can't accidentally move it. Now we'll link in the CAD DWG. From the Insert Ribbon tab on the Link panel, we'll choose the Link CAD. We'll choose the Residence Site Plan DWG. Now looking at the options at the bottom here, we'll change the colours to black and white. We'll set the levels to visible. We'll leave the positioning as auto origin to internal origin. It's going to place at the first floor level, so we'll choose Open. And now our DWG should be placed within the file. We need to zoom to fit to see it, so type in ZF on the keyboard. We can see the DWG is located away from the model. So once again, we need to move this and align it into the correct place. So we'll select the DWG, and we can see that it's pinned in place. So we'll choose to unpin this. And now we can move it nearer our model, and then zooming in, we can see we have the grid lines within the DWG, and we need those to match up with the grid lines in our current model, and also the linked structural model. So I'll choose Align from the Modify ribbon, and then I'll choose grid line 1 in the current project, and then grid line 1 in the DWG. And now that's moved and rotated those into the correct orientation, I'll choose grid line B in the live model, and then grid line B from the DWG. And that's now aligned that into the correct location. So we'll choose Modify to finish the Align tool. I'll reselect the DWG, and then from the Modify ribbon, we'll choose Pin to fix it in place so that we can't accidentally move it. So now we have our linked files in the correct location, and going back to the 3D view, we can see the DWG and also the structural model aligned in with our architectural model. We now need to set up the shared coordinates between the files, and to do this we'll go to the site plan view first. So zooming in, I can see the coordinate markers in the live project here, and also the coordinate markers for our linked structural model. But there are no coordinate markers visible for a DWG file. But we know this is at the correct location, so we'll use this as the base for our coordinates. Before we do this, we'll place in a spot coordinate so that we can see the values change and update. So from the Annotate Ribbon tab, on the Dimension panel, I'll choose Spot Coordinate, and I'll select the lower left corner of the building here. We can see what those coordinates currently read as being 16 feet north and minus 38 feet to the east. So to set up those coordinates, we'll go to the Manage Ribbon tab, From the project location panel under coordinates, we'll choose acquire coordinates. Now we'll select the DWG and we get the message that the coordinates have been acquired from the residence site plan. We can see that the survey marker has moved and also that our spot coordinate has updated. And we'll use our zoom fit shortcut ZF to zoom to fit, and we can see where the survey marker has been moved to for our current project. So we now need to share the coordinates with the linked model. So once again, from the Manage tab on the project location panel under coordinates, this time we'll choose Publish Coordinates. And we'll select the linked model to publish our coordinates into. We'll choose OK to accept the internal current site for the linked structural model. And we can see the survey marker in the linked model has now also moved to the same location as the survey marker in our current file. So that's got the shared coordinates set up. We'll now save this residence block model. So from the quick access toolbar, I'll choose Save. Now this is prompting us to save the shared coordinates back to the residence structure Revit model. So we'll choose Save. And now those shared coordinates are published between all three files. Next, we need to set up a structural plan within this model. So we'll go back to the first floor plan, and then from the project browser, we'll right click and choose Duplicate View with Detailing. We'll rename this view to be First Floor Structure. Now we need to go into the Visibility Graphic Overrides, and we'll switch off the furniture. We also have 3 sets of grid lines, one from our live model, plus the ones in the structural model and the DWG, so we'll need to switch those off. And we'll override the structural columns so that they highlight in red, so that it's easily seen where those are within this file. So to access the Visibility Graphic Overrides, we'll go to the Properties panel and choose to edit. In the model categories of our current model, we'll scroll down and we'll uncheck Furniture so that it's no longer visible, and choose Apply to see that. We also have some other objects here, so we'll also find those which are specialty equipment and uncheck those too. Going to the Imported Categories tab, we can see we have the Residence Site Plan DWG. So I'll expand this out and I'll uncheck the ES Grid layer and apply this to see the grid lines have been turned off in the DWG. Now we'll go to the Revit links and we can see the Residence Structure Revit model. So we'll choose By Host View under the Display Settings. And we'll set this Basics to be Custom. We'll then go to the Model Categories and we'll set the Model Categories to be Custom. And scrolling down, we'll find the Structural Columns. And we'll override the Cut Lines to be red in colour. And then we'll override the Cut Patterns to be a solid fill and to also be red in colour. And now to switch off the grid lines, we'll go to the Annotation tab and we'll set the Annotation categories to be Custom also. And then we can scroll down and find the grid lines, which is just grids in here, and we'll uncheck this. Now we can choose OK and then choose OK once more. And we can now see that we have only one set of grid lines, which are the ones that are live in our current model, with the ones in the DWG and the linked structural model both now switched off. We've also got the columns within the structural model being overridden to showing a solid red fill with a red outline. So that completes this exercise and ends this video. And to recap, in this video, we've seen the solution to the practice exercise link models. And in completing this exercise, we've seen how to link in Revit models and DWG files. We've aligned those models to the correct location and set up shared coordinates between those files. We've also seen how to control the display of both the DWG and the linked Revit model within a view.